This afternoon, I'm thinking and studying about racism and discrimination and how that affects the church. In the book of Galatians, there's a beautiful verse that declares that in Christ we are all sons and I'm concluding daughters of God through faith in Christ Jesus, and we've been baptized into Christ and we've been clothed with him. And it goes on to declare that therefore in Christ there's neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female, slave nor free, for we are all one in Christ Jesus. Beautiful verse. The context of it, though, is not about racism and discrimination. It's really how we all were under the law and we all can be set free in Christ, and that we all are accepted equally before our God. And I ask, therefore, if we're all accepted equally by God, why is there such discrimination in the church, and why is racism so much a part of our society? And if you look in James chapter 2, you see that favoritism toward the rich is strongly forbidden, and so is putting down the poor and making them even lower, and that there's no favoritism to be shown. But so many of us, we carry bias, we carry an unconscious as well as a conscious bias, and so we're a bit surprised if our surgeon's called Muhammad, or perhaps if our pilot on the aeroplane is a woman, or that our nurse is a man. We carry these stereotypes, and they are biases. We believe, for example, that family violence in our nation is Maori upon Maori, and yet that's not true. When we look further into the Bible, we see that the great racist divide in the New Testament was between the Jews and everyone else, the Gentiles. And in Ephesians, Paul writes and says that God has, in the cross, destroyed the hostility between the Jews and the Gentiles, the two that were at war, and he's making one new humanity out of one. He goes on to say that the hostility between these groups was crucified on the cross. That's a startling thought, that the cross not only brings reconciliation with God, but it destroys hostility between peoples. And so we are one family, and in Christ we come as one group before God. And that challenges us to deal with the discrimination and the bias that we find within ourselves. And Paul goes on to talk about that. How do we maintain unity? And again in Ephesians, he says that you do that, you maintain that unity by complete lowliness, by not thinking of ourselves better than we are, and not thinking we're better than other people, but coming and being a lowly person, by being meek, which is one of the qualities of Jesus, by being patient, through forbearance with one another, that we allow space for each other to be different, and we don't judge and we don't take offense. This is part of the challenge of being the community of God, and created to be this diverse community of God that loves one another. And that's the challenge. Are we loving one another, and how we do we do it more? And so my question to just leave for your reflection this afternoon is, how are you doing in this task of loving your neighbor as yourself, your brother as yourself, your sister as yourself, and people who are quite different from you as yourself? It's quite a challenge.